Have you ever been told that people are not always what they seem to be? Or how you never finish getting to know someone? Well, that was Grandma's favorite saying. Nana, as I used to call her, used to love giving me advice, even when I didn't ask for it. She was not shy at all to tell me what she thought. And although, like every older person, Grandma used to think she was always right. Therefore, if she said something, she expected me to do it, even when it was not fair or completely irrational. Growing up, it was just the two of us, so Grandma always looked after me. And when I was little, I always listened to her, but as I got older, I understood it was okay to make my own decisions, particularly when I noticed Grandma didn't like any of my friends, but that's okay. I understood that for some older people, it was harder to understand new concepts and new trends. One thing about me is that it always took me more time than your average guy to do certain things. For example, having a girlfriend. I didn't have my first girlfriend until I was 19 years old. Grandma really loved my girlfriend, Stephanie, but the truth is that I was never really into her. I was into another girl named Celeste Schmidt. She was the total opposite of Stephanie. Now, Celeste was beautiful, sexy, outgoing, and slightly a rebel, which I kinda liked. She sometimes visited our sandwich shop, and Grandma knew I liked her, but constantly told me she wasn't worth it. She also used to say that there was something dark about Celeste. And I never paid attention to those claims since Grandma was always criticizing, well, everything. Now, Celeste sometimes went to our shop with her friends, and most of them were pretty weird to be honest. Even though they constantly used to hang around the students area, and they were of a younger age, I was pretty sure they didn't go to college or even had jobs. I never saw them with books or anything, but I constantly saw them with people that went to the local college. And I tried to figure out what Celeste and her friends did. They looked like good-for-nothings, yet they always wore pricey clothes and had cool things, like nice cars. They constantly spoke about parties. I figured out that there were two options. They all must come from wealthy families, or they must be some sort of influencers. Those kind of people who get paid for putting bikini pictures on Instagram and talking about products. Now, last year, my grandma got very sick, unfortunately. By the time autumn hit, she had passed away. It was a crushing time for me. I had lost the only person I had left in my family. No matter how strong and cold I normally was, her death hit me very hard. Grandma died at the beginning of October, and I couldn't bring myself to work for about 2 weeks, but I had to. After all, the business was my only source of income. My girl Stephanie was there for me for a while as I was dealing with Grandma's death. And she was great, but no matter what she did, I just couldn't love her as she deserved to be loved. And every day I wished the girl I genuinely liked would pay attention to me, but I thought it would never happen. I thought I was way out of her league. Until one day she came to the shop. And this time she was alone and her friends were just hanging outside. She ordered the usual sandwich and waited by the counter while she was on her phone. After a minute or two, I heard her saying, "Shit." I could tell this happened after her phone turned off. Maybe it was her batteries. Although I didn't know Celeste very well, I kind of figured that she was the kind of girl who just couldn't stay anywhere. She always needed to do something or talk about something. She sometimes would have small talk, but the conversation went nowhere. Mainly my fault, but it wasn't this time. She told me she had noticed we were closed for a couple of weeks. I then explained it was because my grandma had died. Her eyes were wide open after I told her that. I've never seen that expression on her face before. She said she was sorry, and then began to ask me about my life. I was very impressed because she seemed interested. I've never seen her acting so kind and sensitive. She always presented herself as cold and superficial, but while we spoke about my grandma's death, she seemed so down to earth. I mean, hell, she even held my hand through the conversation and asked me if I was single. At that moment, I didn't care about being sincere. I finally had a chance with the girl I always wanted, so I said yes. She asked me if I had any plans for Halloween and then proceeded to invite me to a Halloween party. I asked her where the party would be, and she told me not to worry. She said she would pick me up at the shop and take me there. Of course, I agreed. Later on that same day, I broke up with Stephanie. She couldn't understand why I was doing it, but I was honest, and I told her I'd started seeing Celeste. Stephanie then said that even if we broke up, she didn't approve of Celeste. I mean, obviously, right? She said Celeste and her friends are constantly going to the college to speak to lonely students. She thought that was creepy, considering they didn't even go there. She said she believed Celeste was into something weird like drugs, but the truth is, I just didn't care. The girl was smoking hot, and I just wanted something different for a change. I told Stephanie to go away and ignored her messages for the next 2 days. Now, when Halloween came, I was so excited. I had many doubts about this Halloween party, but Celeste just kept telling me it was a surprise. I had no idea where the party was, who was going, or anything. I just knew I had to be ready by 4 p.m. As expected, Celeste picked me up at 4 o'clock at the restaurant. She was looking very nice, more beautiful than ever with a black leather dress. She told me to get into the car. It was a car that I've never seen them drive before. When I got into the car, there were other people in it. Some of them I recognized as her friends. And curiously, they were also wearing black leather clothes. And there was somebody else in the car who was not wearing leather. He was another guy that looked similar to me. He looked plain and out of place. He was nice though. He was the only other person that said hi when I got into the car. And apart from me, this guy and Celeste, there was another girl and a guy driving. Being in the car was rather awkward. I could tell some of the people kept texting while looking at me. I couldn't help but feeling self-conscious, thinking maybe they were making fun of me through text or something. Some of the people in the car were talking among themselves, but they were not really trying to engage me or the other guy. While I kept looking at Celeste and her friends, I noticed something. All of them looked as if they were wearing uniforms, strange leather, sexy uniforms, as if they were ready to go to a BDSM party or something. In an attempt to break the silence, I asked them if those were their Halloween costumes. I could tell some of them had a little chuckle, including Celeste. "Oh, I guess you could call them our uniforms," she said. And after that, her friends laughed even more. Now, me and the other guy who was there just looked at each other, very confused. "Uniforms, huh? What sort of jobs do you have?" the guy asked them. Celeste's friend, who was sitting next to the guy, I assumed she was his date, answered, "Oh, we sometimes have to be in front of a camera. We sort of present things to our audience." "What do you present to your audience, some sort of product?" the guy asked her. And Celeste's friend was about to answer when Celeste interrupted her. "You'll be able to see tonight. We'll be live streaming," Celeste said. After speaking about that, there was complete silence. Now, I didn't notice it until then, but we were leaving the city. I asked them where we were going, and they said we were going to a house in the woods. I remember saying it seemed a little too far for a party, and the guy who drove simply said that the further the better, because we could be loud without people annoying us. I can't say I have been in many parties before, but I was excited. I should have been a little more careful since I was with strangers, but I just wanted them to like me. While we were in the car, I got a message from my ex. She was wondering where I was. I replied, saying I was at a party with Celeste. She answered pretty worried. asking me where the party was, and, well, I just ignored her. A few minutes later, we got to our destination, a beautiful house in the middle of nowhere. I was the first one to get out of the car, and in the meantime, I took a picture of the front of the house, and I sent that picture to Stephanie, telling her I'd be there for the rest of the night. I also told her not to worry. We're not together anymore. She doesn't have to worry about me. We headed towards the house where there was in fact a party going on. There was around 20 people or so, and they all looked young. However, everybody in the party looked and acted very strange. I simply assumed perhaps they had consumed lots of alcohol already. And the house was pretty weird for a house in the middle of the woods. Just wasn't what I was expecting. It was very modern and minimalistic, and there was loud music on. It was so loud that I couldn't even hear anybody talk. Celeste left me alone for a second, and in the meantime, her and her other 2 friends that were in the car went to speak to another guy who was also dressed in leather. I was trying to pay attention to what they were saying, but I was interrupted by the other guy who was also in the car with us. He asked me what my name was, and we introduced each other. He also asked me if I was dating Celeste. I explained to him this was actually the first time we went out. She had asked me out. And the other guy, Clark his name was, told me it was also the first time that Bianca, Celeste's friend, the girl that was sitting next to him, asked him out. I asked him where they knew each other from, and he said that he normally repaired her car. I asked him where he worked, and he told me that he was self-employed. Now I was digging a bit more into Clark's life, and I found out that he lived alone. It started making me feel very uneasy. Grandma's old advice started running through my head. I had trusted people too easily. I immediately grabbed my phone and sent a message to Stephanie. "You were right. I think there's something weird about Celeste," I said. Unfortunately, before I got the chance to say anything else, one dude wearing leather came to us. However, he was wearing a mask that covered everything but his eyes and mouth. He told us to follow him to the 2nd floor, and I asked him where we were going. He then said we were going to the VIP section where the girls were waiting. I really wanted to refuse, but I didn't want to cause any trouble. So, the 3 of us went up the stairs. When we got to the 2nd floor, I was about to enter a room when the dude asked us for our phones. We asked why he needed them, and he said that we were about to see the girls live at their job, and it was just preventing people from recording them. Clark gave his phone away quite easily. I didn't want to, but the guy telling us to do so was huge. I mean, this dude was massive. He must have been at least 6'6", just packed full of muscle. I felt intimidated and gave him my phone. He then put our phone in some sort of fanny pack. Couldn't help but noticing there were at least 3 other phones in there already. We entered a room that was very big, and inside that room were 3 other people. An Asian dude, a blonde girl with lots of tattoos, and a skinny dude who seemed drunk as hell. And they were sitting on a couch. The man with the mask told us to sit there. Clark and I did so. He then proceeded to take a picture of all of us. The skinny guy asked what the picture was for. The man simply replied, "Just to let people see our guests for tonight." I don't know why, but the way he said that made me feel very uneasy. After he took the picture, he left, and then we began to chat with the rest of the people in the room. The Asian guy and the blonde girl were equally concerned about how things were turning. I asked them if they had been there before, but they said they barely knew the people who invited them. They said that they thought they were going to a Halloween party as well. At that point, I think all of us were worried, except for the guy who was clearly too drunk to pay attention. There was nothing in that room but the couch, a window, and 2 doors. We walked to the doors trying to open them, but both of them were locked, including the door where we came from. And we started getting desperate. The blonde girl even began to cry. And then Clark pointed something out. There were 2 cameras in the room, both of them too high to reach. The Asian man began to talk to the cameras. "Why are you watching us? Please let us out." He begged, but not an answer from anybody. It's like they wanted to see us go insane. And after about 30 minutes or so, 2 people came to the room. I recognized them perfectly, even though both of them were also wearing masks. One of them was Celeste, and the other was the dude who previously drove the car to get us here. Celeste then called Jackson, the drunk dude, and told him to go with her. We started asking why we were there, why we were being recorded, but Celeste and the dude just ignored our requests. Jackson walked freely towards them, told him not to go, but he didn't listen. We even tried to stop them from taking him away, but then the man showed us a taser gun, so we stepped back. They grabbed some keys and opened one of the doors in the room, not the one where we entered from, and went through with Jackson. Immediately after this happened, Bianca, also wearing a mask, entered the room, and she entered with a laptop and placed it on the floor right in front of us. Now, none of us spoke to Bianca. I think we were all just too scared, and after placing the laptop on the floor, she just left once again. The laptop was on and it was streaming something. We could see Jackson and Celeste, which meant we could see the other room. However, the guy who had the taser gun wasn't there. But after a few minutes, he appeared with some company. He was carrying something in his hands, some sort of heavy chain. You might be thinking he was carrying some sort of giant dog or random animal, but no. It was difficult to identify what it was at first because the creature was hunched over, had its head down with its long hair covering his face. But then we saw it clearly. He was a human, or at least had the same structure as one, but his body and face was very hard on the eyes. He looked extremely mutated. His mouth was giant and looked like the mouth of a piranha rather than a human, with plenty of crooked teeth pointed out. His extremities were very long and out of proportion. His face was extremely long, and everything in it just looked wrong. He's wearing some sort of old ragged clothes, and I remember looking at this awful creature, feeling bad for him. But then things changed in a matter of seconds. The man let go of the chain, and the creature immediately headed towards Jackson. Jackson was too weak and drunk to try and fight him. The deformed man jumped on Jackson and started breaking his bones with his bare hands. He then started tearing off his skin. That was it for us. We couldn't stomach seeing it anymore since we knew that's what would happen to us as well. I grabbed the laptop and tried to open another tab to try and reach for help, but it wasn't working. The live stream wouldn't go away. The Asian man grabbed the laptop and threw it against the floor, trying to smash it in order to stop seeing those awful images and hearing those heart-wrenching sounds. I had an idea, and I threw the laptop against the window, but nothing would break it. We were so desperate, we didn't even know what to do anymore. We were trapped in some sort of twisted live stream. Approximately 20 minutes after they took Jackson away, the big man and Celeste entered our room again and called Kelly, the blonde girl with tattoos. Kelly was hugging Clark, who was trying to protect her, and all of us started screaming, saying we won't let them take her away. And the big man took the taser gun out of his pocket and tried to tase Clark, but before he did it, I quickly grabbed the laptop that was on the floor and threw it at his head, completely knocking him out. Celeste tried to reach her taser gun, but the Asian man and I grabbed it away from her and took her keys in order to escape. We opened the door and quickly ran downstairs. However, Before we reached the first door, the big man who had taken us to the room tried to stop us. Luckily, we outnumbered him and managed to run away, except for Kelly, who tripped, and the man grabbed her. Once we were on the first floor, we started screaming to the other people to get away, but the music was too loud and we were running out of time before some of the other masked people came towards us. So we just went to the door and left the house. And once outside, however, we didn't know where to go. If we headed towards the road, they would easily get us by the car. But if we headed towards the woods, they could still get us as well. I mean, after all, they probably owned the house and probably knew the local area. Before we managed to go, 2 of the masked men came out of the house with guns. They shot Clark, and the Asian man and I ran towards the woods. We ran as fast as we could as we were being followed by these people. And I kept hearing them shoot, but I didn't even stop to look at anything. And for one moment, I heard something hit my shoulder, but I just kept running. Now, I don't know for how long I ran, but eventually I stopped hearing the shots and the people. And after a long time of running, I stopped just to look around and noticed there didn't seem to be people following me anymore. And unfortunately, I don't know what happened to the Asian guy either. I decided to head towards the road, and I think it took me about, 20 minutes or so. I was afraid I'd be caught by them, but I also needed help. Luckily for me, I saw a car coming the opposite direction from where the house was. I stood in front of it trying to make it stop, and it did. People who got out of the car had very familiar faces. Stephanie, her brother, and her dad. I asked them what they were doing there. Stephanie said that thanks to the picture I sent her, she saw the address where I was, and after I never replied back, they decided to come and see if I was okay. They pointed out that I had been shot in the shoulder, that we needed to get to a hospital. And, well, I don't remember too much after that. I blacked out as soon as I got into the car. When I woke up, the police and everybody else asked me a lot of things. And I told them every single detail, and they seemed absolutely shocked, especially when I told them about the chained man. They told me I had, in fact, been the target of some twisted Livestream torture, and that I was very lucky to escape. Unfortunately, when they went to the house, it was completely empty, and they found nothing. No mutated creature, no cameras, no blood, no corpses. However, the next day after Halloween, there were 4 reports of missing people in my city, and 20 other reports of missing people from nearby towns. When I saw the pictures of the other 4 missing people from my city, it was indeed the other 4 who were trapped in the room with me. All these events happened this last Halloween. I'm technically not supposed to be talking about this, but I somehow feel like I have to. Sometimes we believe in people too easily, and we constantly ignore the advice of those who love us just because they don't tell us what we want to hear. You know, as I ignored Grandma's and Stephanie's warnings about Celeste. And I don't expect you to believe me. But if you go on the deep web or even the dark web, you might be able to see that live stream. Let me just leave you with this. Please, don't trust people so easily. Because even something so simple as a Halloween party can turn into a bloody nightmare.